Welcome to the third episode of the Monthly Dirtcast. I'm Jared Dillian, editor and publisher of the Daily Dirt Nap, a financial newsletter for investment professionals. It's been a busy month here at the Dirt Nap. We had the party for subscribers up in New York last week, which was a huge success. People came out from all over the country, even as far away as San Francisco. I heard the music was pretty good too. Our next guest was also at the party. We have David Mannen with us here today, who is a real estate agent and part-time contractor here in Myrtle Beach. Dave originally comes from Southern Illinois and graduated from the University of Illinois in 2009. Now, he graduated at the age of 31. After high school, he became a journeyman iron worker, which he did for about 7 years. After graduating from college, he worked as a high school teacher and a football coach before he got into real estate. And I hope we get to talk a little bit about his teaching career, too. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jared.
Now, you were at the party last week. I don't see you really as a dance music guy, but I hope you at least had some fun.
Yeah, I did. No, I had a good time. You had a good turnout.
Yeah, pretty good. I think, it's always with these things, but people bail at the last minute, something comes up. But we're going to do this again in September. So hopefully we'll get everybody who missed it the first time around.
Yeah, it's great.
Now, we also got to do the tourist thing in New York. Now, it wasn't your first time in New York City. You've been a bunch of times. How many times have you been?
I think that was my third or fourth time there. Yeah.
Okay.
And every time I've gone, we've stayed in Manhattan. So
yeah.
I've never left Manhattan. But yeah, there's plenty to do there.
Yeah. So we went up to the Freedom Tower, which was kind of an interesting experience for me, because of my history at the World Trade Center. For anybody who's listening, it's not a good idea to go to the Freedom Tower observation deck when it's foggy.
Yeah.
You can't see anything.
We could have been on the third floor. I wouldn't have known the difference.
But we had a limited amount of time, so that was pretty much the only time we could do it. Yeah. But it also, like, from being at the old World Trade Center, like, this is like an amusement park ride. I mean, they got videos and music and displays and the old building, like, you just get on the elevator, go up, and it would let you off. Like, it wasn't any of all this crazy stuff. So you also got to go to Soho for the first time. I think that was your first time there.
I wouldn't know the difference.
You wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Soho is.
Is that where your party was?
No. My party was kind of near Houston Street. I mean, well, it's actually close to Soho.
Soho's where we went shopping.
Yeah, that's where we went shopping.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It's a bit of like a big outdoor mall these days.
It was neat. I felt a little underdressed going to some of them places.
Well, we went to Suit Supply.
Yeah.
Now, Suit Supply is, for anybody who's listening, Suit Supply is, I think, one of my top life hacks in the world. Like, in terms of, you can get a mid-priced suit, $500 to $700, that is an Italian suit that would ordinarily be 2 or 3 times as much. I mean, just amazing quality.
Yeah. It's interesting. You kind of gave us the story about that, how that company bought those Italian
the mills,
textile mills.
Yep.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, it's that is. I have some nice suits. I have like Canali suits. I have Ted Baker suits, but I keep going back to Suit Supply. I mean, just in terms of the quality you get for your money, like it's just amazing stuff.
They paying you for this?
No, they're not paying me. Yeah, I wear a lot of suits here. I mean, we're recording this. It's in the Daily Dirt Nap offices, and last week I came to work 5 days. Every day I put on a suit.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like you get dressed up and it just puts you in the zone to go to work.
Yeah, I get it. I understand. Yeah.
So you live in Conway. So Conway is not Myrtle Beach. Conway is about 15 miles inland from Myrtle Beach, along Highway 501. So Conway has Coastal Carolina University, and it has a little bit of a downtown area, but it's kind of a weird vibe, I would say. Like, the main bar downtown is called the Crafty Rooster. You go in the Crafty Rooster on any given night, and it's like half professors and half camouflage.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
Right? It's like it's Conway is like right on the borderline between, cosmopolitan, I guess, and just complete hillbilly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Yeah.
So now if you go further out than Conway, what's the next town further out? It's Aner, right?
Yeah, you got Aner. Well, there's, like Conway's the center. It's the county seat. And you have all these directional roads that kind of split out. So just imagine a spider web. And like Conway's in the middle of that web.
Yeah.
So you got Aner in one direction. You got Loris in another direction. Georgetown, Myrtle Beach. So it's just kind of how it's laid out.
Now you sell a lot of houses in these places, right?
Yeah, actually, the majority of my, transactions are Conway, mostly Conways. A few in Loris, a few in Aner. In Myrtle Beach, actually, I still do a pretty decent business in Myrtle Beach. It's all about where where I live too. It's just more convenient, and and as a agent for my broker, like my broker kind of also tries to push you toward areas that you're geographically close to as well.
Yeah.
So, like, she's not going to send me a lead in Myrtle's Inlet or North Myrtle Beach. She's got agents that live, in those areas. So, it's just kind of where I've been.
So I'm really interested in the more rural areas.
Okay.
Right? So like Loris and Aner. Now, first of all, these towns, they're not even really like towns. I mean, in a lot of cases, it's just like an intersection. And I mean, I guess Loris is sort of bigger, but it's not, they don't really have like a city center.
Well, I mean, so you got to, for me, like I grew up, the size of the town I grew up in.
It's like 500 people, right?
900 people.
900
yeah,
people.
900 people. Yeah. We were 15 miles from the University of Illinois, which is, but this was a small rural farm town, bedroom community. So, from my perspective, a town like Loris is, like a little, it's bigger than the town I grew up in. I mean, it's got, what I see when I see these towns, I see towns that, like, at one time were probably doing pretty good.
Yeah.
In the, several years ago, before tobacco, that industry kind of died, and for multiple reasons. But yeah.
So let's take Aner for example. So if you're driving into Myrtle Beach on 501, which is the highway that comes from 95, the first town you're going to hit is Aner, then you hit Conway, then you hit Myrtle Beach.
That's
so
right.
Aner's about 25 to 30 miles out, right?
From the beach. Yeah.
Okay. So just an average house in Aner, what are we looking at here? Like 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, how much does it cost? How much land? Like, tell us about like the average house there.
Yeah. And so there's some, the thing about Aner is people that want to live there, it's usually because they have kids that go to school, and there's people really want to be in that school district. And so there's a lot of new construction, believe it or not, going on in Aner. Some smaller subdivisions, but yeah, you can get a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, about 1,500 square feet with a 2-car garage, for about $150,000.
Oh, it's a little more than I would have.
Yeah, well, it's prices have gone up in that price in those homes, those single family homes like that. Yeah, so and because the inventory up there is pretty low, it's limited because they're not building as much, and a lot of people, believe it or not, actually want to. Well, I should say believe it or not, but they want to be in that school district. They have because they have a magnet school there. They have this IB program. Yeah, which is International Baccalaureate. So a lot of, like I said, a lot of people hear about that. And they want to be in that school district.
So somebody who's looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, 1,500 square feet in Aner, where are these people coming from?
Good question. New Jersey, Connecticut, Maryland, Pennsylvania. A lot of times they come from the rural areas in those states.
But not really from around here. They're definitely coming from elsewhere.
Yeah, a lot of them are coming from elsewhere. Yeah. Yeah, mostly. Yeah.
So I mean, if you're retiring, which I imagine a lot of these people are, and you're sort of priced out of Myrtle Beach and Conway, and you're out in Aner, I mean, that's you don't really have a lot of money to play with if you're looking for a $150,000 house out in Aner. So like, what are these people? What's their background? What do they do?
A lot of them are like mostly working class people that have retired and they have a pension or they have an annuity. A lot of people they'll cash out their annuities and pay cash for a house.
Yeah,
they'll do it that way, and then what they do after that. Sometimes they'll refinance it and put the money back, in their annuity, something like that. But a lot of people, and this is just speaking outside of Aner too. You see it in Conway and a lot of the other rural areas. Is you can use disability income counts on
oh sure
to a bank.
Yeah,
as long as it's a fixed disability income and it's stable.
So is that some of your clients do disability
I've got
income?
clients that get disability that can get, because you can get into a house outside of Myrtle Beach, Conway, Aner, Loris, anywhere for no money down. Like they have.
So let's talk about that for a second. So out of these buyers, how you're saying most of them are using financing? I mean, you don't have a lot of all cash buyers. Most are using financing.
Most.
And you're saying that a lot of them are 100% financing?
A lot of them are, yeah.
So how are they doing that?
There's a program. It's a government program. It's called the USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture, and they underwrite. They underwrite a lot of these. They underwrite these loans. It's a program. It's called Rural Housing Development, and you can get into it with literally no money. I mean, I had a lady about a year ago. She bought a house.
So people know. I'm sure our listeners know about FHA loans and VA loans, but this is a completely different program. It's actually the Department of Agriculture.
Yep.
It's not HUD.
Not HUD. Nope. Not the VA. It's VA is another one. You've heard of VA.
Yeah.
They do 100% also, but you got to be a veteran.
Right.
USDA there's no. The only thing about USDA is you can make too much money and not qualify.
Right.
If you make too much, then you don't qualify for it. It's actually for low income.
So I know your experience is around here, but do you know how prevalent these loans are elsewhere in the country? Is this a common thing in rural areas?
I'm not sure because I'd never heard of them till I moved here. But I think it's national. I think they do them everywhere. But
so what's the paperwork burden on these things?
Okay, it depends on how you do it. Any bank can do it. Most banks can do it. Wells Fargo, Bank of America, BB&T, they all have a USDA. They all have mortgage brokers or mortgage officers that can do them.
Yeah.
And that's only if you fall in a certain income requirement. They also have a direct, that's called indirect, unsubsidized. There's a direct program, which means you go directly through USDA, through one of their government offices, and that's a little more tedious, very tedious, actually. But the income requirements on that are much lower. So if you make less than, I think in Horry County, it's $24,000. If you make under $24,000, but you make more than, I think it's $15,000 or $16,000, if you fall in that income range, you can get a new house. And we actually did. A lady makes $19,000. She cleans at a hospital, makes about $9 an hour, and got a brand new house. It was a lot of work, but in the end, she got the house, and her interest and her payment is subsidized, which it was a 3.25% interest rate, and the USDA subsidizes 2.25%. She's paying 1% interest, so it's literally like you would call free money. 1%.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So here's another question. Now you've I guess since you've been selling real estate, you probably had 150 closings. Is that a good guess?
That's pretty good. Yeah, about 4 years.
Okay,
yeah.
So how many of your clients have gone into foreclosure? Do you know of in the last 4 years?
So far, none. I say so far.
Yeah.
Reason is because when I started, it was 2013, and we were still climbing out of the, of the
financial
crash.
crisis.
Yeah. And so if you bought a home then, you were buying low. You were at the bottom. So a lot of people I've sold homes to are actually doing pretty good now because they have a lot of equity, on paper, because their values have gone up and But I've had no.
Well, if you have people, getting disability payments, they're not likely to go into foreclosure. I mean, there's nothing that's going to happen to that income stream.
Sure, yeah.
What do the property taxes look like around here?
Yeah, this will shock your subscribers. Just for example, like our house, $150,000 house, we pay $560 a year.
$560.
$560 a year, not a month. A year. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, a former subscriber of mine lived in Westchester County, and he told me that he had a nice house, but it wasn't incredible. But he was paying $64,000 a year in property taxes.
Yeah. No, it's people that come down. They're always the first time they hear it. They're like, "Is that a month?" No, that's a year.
Yeah, it's really low.
Yeah.
So what would you say? So let's say here average house out in Aner, the payment. So insurance, property taxes, mortgage. What are you looking at the monthly payment for these things?
Just like I said, $150,000 house. You're looking with your taxes, insurance. If you got an FHA loan, you got PMI. It's like $80 a month there. You're looking at around $900 a month.
Yeah. So what would you say that is as a percentage of somebody's income? I think you mentioned this to me before. 42% of income is what you're shooting for?
Yeah, I think, debt to income ratio has to be around 40 to 45%. Depending on your credit, income, they can fudge a little bit, and they keep toying with that. That's what the lenders, when they want to sell more loans, they try to fudge with that debt to income ratio.
So what is the biggest home you've sold out in that area, and what is the smallest?
Let's see, the biggest home. Good question. Actually, out just outside of Aner, I had a client that. It's kind of a long story. It kind of started, but it was about 3,600. Square feet. Yeah. Heated square foot was about 2,300. I had this giant 2-car garage. It was pink. Okay, it's a pink house. It looked like an old Victorian. It had witch's cap, these turret looking lookouts, and it was on. It was about an acre of land. Had a pond. Pretty neat house.
Actually, mine's probably the biggest.
Oh, yours is the biggest.
Yeah,
definitely.
But what about on the other end? Now you've sold mobile homes as well.
That's right.
So, how much are these mobile homes going for?
Depends. So, mobile homes have titles. They're like cars, but you can also retire them. They call it retiring them and make them a permanent part of the land. But yeah, I've sold mobile homes for $20,000, and I've sold double wides for $120,000, $130,000, $130,000 for a double wide mobile home.
Yeah.
On land.
So what do you take as a commission on those?
It's always usually 3%. Yeah. If I'm listing it, you try to get.
So you're just trying to do those as quickly as possible, because if you're only getting $600 commission, I mean, it's not really. It's not a good use of your time.
Well, it's probably not, but I mean, I have this philosophy. Well, and they tell us this too. Just don't turn anything down, because you never know who they know or what that might lead to. My first house I sold was a double wide in Myrtle Beach, actually, by the racetrack. That neighborhood by the racetrack.
Yep.
$40,000. They were from Staten Island.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He was actually a prison guard at Rikers, just looking to have something to come down to, to relax, get away, close to the beach. And then last week, they're in town, and they're looking at just made an offer this morning on a house, $400,000. So you never know.
Yep.
Right. What that could lead to. So I sold a condo to a guy for $11,000 in Myrtle Beach, he's looking at $350,000 commercial buildings now. So you just you just never know. You try to help everybody, and you just never know what it could turn into.
Yeah. So would you say that housing is in a bull market around here?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's starting to get pretty hot, isn't it?
Well, it's seasonal a little bit. This time of year, it gets to where, if you're trying to buy a home that's built, resale, in that price range I was talking about, anywhere in that 125 to 175 range, and if it's nice, move-in ready, FHA approved, then a lot of times you're going to have 4 or 5 offers on it in a week.
Well, you keep talking about, we talked about USDA, you just mentioned FHA. Like, what would you say the percentage of houses around here are subsidized in some fashion, VA, FHA, USDA? Like, it sounds like a lot.
I would say a lot of them, yeah, especially the newer ones, because the older homes have to they got to still meet criteria. Mm-hmm. The roofs have to be good. The air conditioners have to be good. The home can't need a lot of work, so it has to be in pretty good shape. So yeah, I would say, yeah, most of them.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. No one has 20% down anymore.
No way.
Yeah. You know what would happen if that was a requirement, right? The prices would plummet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
I think that, for people listening to this podcast who, might live in a, more affluent area, where houses are, 6, 7, 800,000, something like that. Mm-hmm. Like those are not FHA houses. Like you have to show up with 20%.
Yeah.
And people do. Like, for a $600,000 house, people show up with $120,000. But it's not the case around here.
Yeah, I think FHA only goes up to 425, I think. Or, that's it. They won't go any higher than that. So that eliminates probably 99% of the people in this county.
Yeah. But in terms of the market around here, it seems like the lower end is on fire, but the higher end is actually pretty soft. Like in my neighborhood, there's for sale signs everywhere, and prices are coming down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's just a smaller pool of buyers for those, in that upscale range. Even 400,000, I don't even look in that price point very often, and I'm looking at comps, and I'm like, boy, these people, some of these people paid, more than this. And they're underwater still on some of these $400,000 homes, but it's the lower end homes that are moving quick. Market Common. So let's talk about Market Common. Market Common is it's a sort of an upscale shopping center that was built on an old Air Force base, and there's actually sort of some planned communities popping up around there. Right.
And those houses are going in the threes.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah,
that's really expensive, I think, for that area.
Yeah, that's new construction. That's how it works. They start low, and then the more they build, the prices just keep going up and up and up until they can't.
Yeah. So if you say somebody is listening to this and is interested in getting a piece of property here, but they're interested in more of a high-end neighborhood, where would you tell them to look?
Well, you probably you actually live in Georgetown County,
right?
Which is, it's still considered part of the Grand Strand area, but you're a little bit south. That's a great area because it's quiet. You don't have all the tourist traffic. High end, depends. If it's always the first question, one of the first or second questions I always ask people is, how far you want to be from the beach. That's what it's about. Some people don't care about the beach. They don't want to be near the beach. Some people want to be by the beach. So that's the first thing you got to find out where they want to be, and then, but Myrtle Beach has the Golden Mile.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was looking at that. A couple years ago.
There's the Grand Dunes.
Yep, Grand Dunes.
There's supposedly Michael Jordan had a place in there.
Yeah. But it's hard to get a house around here for more than $2 million, right? Like it's almost impossible.
Yeah, it'd have to be a mansion on the ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah, or I've seen them in the country, but they're usually on 100 acres.
So I'm going to ask you sort of an economic question here. I'm going to ask you to forecast something for me.
Right.
What is your opinion on interest rates? Going up, going down?
I'm sure they could go up a little, but I just don't think they can afford for them to go up much because it'll hurt the housing market. The only way I could see they can afford to raise interest rates is if wages go up. But a lot of baby boomers are retiring and they have money, so they might be able to get by with raising interest rates a little bit. But
so right now, a 30-year fixed conventional is like 4 1/8, something like that.
Yeah, 4 1/4. Depending on your credit, I got a guy that's 4.75 because he's got a 580 credit score.
Yeah,
which is not a very good credit score, but
right.
They can do an FHA with a 580.
Yeah. So right now, 30-year fixed mortgages are benchmarked off of 10-year treasuries.
Okay.
And 10-year treasuries right now are about 2.4%. So if let's say 10s go up to 3%, I mean, here's my forecast. I've been bearish on bonds for a long time, but I think it's possible that you could get 10s at 3%, which means 30-year fix would go into the high 4s, maybe 5, but probably like 4 3/4, 4 7/8. Like, what do you think that does, to the market around here?
Honestly, I don't think it would affect it much at all. I don't. Because the affordability of the houses here, the taxes are low, and what you're getting, I think, even if someone, but you have to do it slow.
So that payment would go from $900 to like $1,050 or maybe $1,100.
I think a 1% difference is about $50 a month.
Okay.
Which isn't much.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, it wouldn't affect it too much. That's why I'm thinking. Like I said, they did it slowly, right? If they jumped them up 1%, yeah, we'd feel it pretty quick. But an eighth here and an eighth there, like people wouldn't even notice. You're right. I would they'd just be 3 years from now. They'd be like, "Hey, remember when interest rates were 3.9 and now they're 4.9?"
Yeah. So you don't think it would have a huge impact? It would some impact, but not.
Yeah, it wouldn't. It wouldn't like be a shock to the system.
Yeah.
No, I mean, what it could. Our actually market is. We talk about all these people coming down from New Jersey and New York and mostly upstate New York. Those areas. If it hurts those markets, it could hurt our market because those people can't sell. Or they're having trouble selling their homes. Well, that hurts us.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I learned a hard lesson about that when Hurricane Sandy hit New Jersey. That hurt. A lot of deals fell through down here.
Yep.
A lot of people got hurt by that.
Yeah. So let's talk about this notion of 100% financing. So I am, I guess maybe old school, but I'm really against 100% financing for a couple of reasons. I don't think if you give somebody 100% financing, you're really not doing them a favor. If you get 100% financing, if you have to sell the house, say something happens, and you have to sell it in a year or two, assuming the price hasn't changed, you have 6 or 7% transactions costs, and you're underwater immediately. Yeah. Basically, as soon as you sign it, you're underwater because it's going to cost you 6 or 7% to get out. Now, what's interesting is that all the houses that you've sold in the last 3.5 years, everybody's fine because the prices have actually gone up. But that is, a very fortuitous development. If you get 100% financing, if you pay your mortgage every month and just amortize the principal on schedule, it takes you 10 years to get to 20% equity. 10 years.
Yeah, no, I think about that and I get it. Yeah, it's you taught me a term a few months ago called a moral hazard. You think about and like, am I doing these people a favor? And I'm very aware of that, and I do. And I know, and I think, and I try to look out for people and think, what, this is not a good situation for you. But But yeah, if you're getting a 30-year mortgage, you're not putting any money down. You better plan on staying there for a while.
Yeah. Now the reason the government does this is because the government says there are societal benefits to home ownership, right? If you're a renter, then you don't really have any skin in the game. You don't care. You don't take care of your property. Things kind of go to hell. But once you're a homeowner, now you have skin in the game. You take care of the property. There's a community. So people talk about these benefits to homeownership. I think the number one benefit to homeownership is the 30-year fixed mortgage, which is the greatest financial innovation of all time. Because most people don't save money. They don't save. But the mortgage, because it amortizes every month, forces them to save. So if you stay in a house for 30 years and you pay it off, now you have an asset that's worth a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
Basically, that mortgage forces you to save. It's interesting. In a lot of European countries, mortgages are interest only. I mean, you know that from Sweden. We've talked about all the mortgages in Sweden are IO. So basically, people just pay the interest every month and then just hope they can sell it at the end.
Yeah, that seems insane to me. Why would you? I don't understand why you would do that. Why would you just rent? But they assume, like we have assumed in the past, that the prices of real estate will always go up, right?
Yeah.
And you think that's going to happen in Sweden? I mean, you think?
No. Well, they have a huge housing bubble.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah,
I think they're in trouble.
So let's talk about the financial crisis and how it hit Myrtle Beach. So you weren't selling real estate at the time, but you've heard stories about what happened. Tell us what that was like, what the financial crisis did to real estate around here.
Yeah, like you said, I wasn't in real estate. I was actually teaching, and I was in college. Like you said, when the 2008, I was at the U of I, and I didn't even know. I was a history major. I didn't know what was going on. They talked about the housing crisis and the financial crisis, and I wasn't really aware of what was going on. But when we moved here, it was close to when you moved here. You didn't see anything being built I didn't see a single house being built for between 2009 and 2011.
Yeah, I moved here in 2010.
Yeah, nothing was being built, and it was dead. And yeah, some of the classic horror stories, and what I started to see was, we have these oceanfront condotels. You're somewhat familiar with these.
Yep. Yeah, I looked at some of those with you.
Yeah, they did these hotels, and they converted all these to condos, and you could get no doc loans and accelerated interest loan. You're just paying interest for 3 years, and then you start paying on the principal. It was crazy. People were buying them on speculation and flipping them, and yeah, just seeing. I guess we're a little bit sadistic in some way. We laugh when we see what people have puked on some of these places. Yep. You still see it a lot. I still see it a lot. I saw a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, oceanfront condo. The guy paid $360,000 for it back in 2006. And now it's for sale for $110,000.
Yeah,
you lost. That's a lot of money to lose.
Well, apparently the land was even more dramatic, right? Land prices just dropped.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard stories of land that was going for, $200,000 for a quarter acre, and then a couple years later was selling for $10,000.
Yeah, you couldn't get financing on land. Now you can. Banks are starting to ease up again.
Seriously?
Oh yeah. You can. Yeah, you can. Locally, though, you got to go through some local banks. But, yeah, there's some that are starting to do finance land again. But you got to have really good credit. So, yeah, that's the thing. When they couldn't loan money on land, that definitely hurt the land price.
Now, you go to tax auctions occasionally, right? I mean, at least you were... I remember I was talking to you about this 4 or 5 years ago. You were going to tax auctions, but I think you went to some recently too.
Yeah.
What's the difference between 4 or 5 years ago and now?
Well, there's actually when I went a few years ago, these are actually the foreclosure auctions.
Right.
Homes that are being foreclosed on, and difference. Honestly, it's kind of funny. I went in when I went there recently. I saw the same people there I saw 4 years ago. They're still doing their thing, but prices have gone up. Even in the foreclosures, and it's kind of the same. The banks buy them back mostly. 90% of the homes at the auction.
Really?
The banks are the highest bidder, and they get them back. And then you see them on the market. They list them with realtors.
So I'm sure you have some funny stories selling real estate around here. Tell us, give us like your top one or two.
That's fortunately one is kind of going on now. That's pretty funny that I'll share. And then I don't know. I burned a house down, but which I don't know if you want to hear that.
Talk about.
Okay. But that wasn't really sales related. That was a side venture. But so there's a guy. This guy a couple weeks ago. You don't know how people get your name or your number and stuff because the internet is kind of its own animal. Somebody will click on a house.
Oh yeah, I deal with that all the time.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So a guy calls me. His name's Larry. He said, "How you doing, Larry?" He says, "Oh, I'm not doing worth a damn." I'm like, "What's the matter?" He says, "My wife just left me. She Christmas Eve. She gave me divorce papers. We're getting divorced. I don't know why. We've been married for 46 years. This guy's 88 years old. Yeah." So, a lot of times you just kind of take people for a grain of salt. You don't really know what, he's like, okay, all right. So he says he's going to come down and he wants to buy a condo. He wants to buy a condo on the beach and he wants to rent it for a few years and then move here permanently. I didn't know he was 88 years old till he moved here, or till he came here. Well, he wants to take a train to Dillian from Florida, and he wants me to go pick him up in Dillian, which is about
an hour away.
Yeah, about an hour and a half away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, we'll see. Just give me a call when you get here. We'll see. I'm not committing to anything here. And sure enough, he calls me, but luckily he took a cab from Dillian. He didn't call me in Dillian. So he called me. He says, "Hey, I'm in Myrtle Beach. You ready to go look at condos?" I'm like, man, this guy's serious,
Yeah.
So, okay, all right. So I go and I meet him. So he wants to buy this condo because he had a vacation planned with his ex-wife now. They were going to spend 2 weeks this month in March at the Regency Towers. And so he wanted to buy a condo next to that at another development so he could show his ex-wife his new girlfriend. He wanted to ruin his ex-wife's vacation. So he just wanted to show off and he showed me a picture of this 40-year-old nurse, that he met online. He wants to show her off to his new ex-wife. And he hopes he can ruin her vacation. So I'm like, this guy's 88 years old. I'm like, you're a little too old to be behaving like this. But
is he getting a 30-year mortgage?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. No, seriously, he is.
Yep.
Guess who's doing Quicken Loans? Quicken Loans. Yep.
Bro, managing personalities is probably the toughest part of your job, I imagine.
Yeah. Yep.
Because people just do. Most people, you're a pretty rational guy.
Mm-hmm.
You were a history major in college, but I think you were a math major for a certain period of time.
That's right. Yeah.
I was a math major, and I think we're both rational people, but you deal with a lot of people who are just emotional.
Yeah.
And they just make ridiculous decisions.
Yeah.
And there's not much you can do about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of times I feel like I'm more of a counselor, a therapist, a mediator, conflict resolution, that sort of thing. Which, when I taught high school with 30 juvenile delinquents in the classroom, I got schooled that way. So it's you deal with some emotional people. For the most part, most people are decent. They're fine, easy to get along with, no problems. But yeah, you get some people. The hardest thing to do is sometimes you have to you have to be nice. You know, you have to be nice and polite, and sometimes you don't want to be. You just can't stand these people. Sometimes you just can't stand someone. You just don't like them. And when this deal is done, you never want to see them again.
Yep.
You hope you never see them again. And it's unfortunate, but that's rare. You know, most people I've met, even the New Yorkers, are mostly decent people.
They're the best people.
Yeah.
They're the best. So let's talk about one more thing, a little more sinister side of your business. Now, you've mentioned to me in the past that you've run into some interesting deed restrictions when you're selling real estate. And what does that mean?
The most interesting thing I saw in that was, and you know, you couldn't believe it until you saw it, you know, that it was true. But you know, a client was trying to buy a property in Surfside Beach, and I don't know why. Sometimes I don't always look at the deeds. It's not really part of the job, but there was something I was looking for on the deed for a particular reason. And anyways, I remember coming across this deed restriction. It said this property never to be sold to or rented to any non-Caucasian. And that was right there in writing in that deed.
So what year was that deed written?
I think it was in the 1940s.
In the 40s?
Yeah, 40s. Yeah, somewhere in the 40s.
That's not, there was just more than one, right? Like, haven't you run into that before?
After talking to some lawyers, they said, yeah, that's pretty common. Yeah, you saw that in a lot of these old deeds. Obviously, you couldn't enforce that now.
Yeah.
But it's there, you know. So it explains why, you know, we have entire sections of the beach communities that they're all predominantly white, you know, and then you have Atlantic Beach, which was when during segregation, you know, blacks and whites couldn't be on the same beach, and Atlantic Beach was the black beach.
Yep.
So and you still see it today.
Yeah, kind of an ugly part of the history.
Oh yeah, it's there. Yeah, you know, and I get into that. I liked it because I was a history major. I still love history, so that's, you know, the racial issues of the past. It's here. You know, it's still here, and it still goes on today.
Yeah. So let's switch gears here and talk about your teaching career. So what schools did you teach in? I think you said in Hartsville and Mullins around here?
That's right, yeah. Okay. The first year I was here, I substituted and coached football, and then my first real full-time job was in Hartsville.
Now, Hartsville's near Darlington, right?
That's right. You had a guest here from Darlington.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, but so just so everybody knows, Darlington is where the NASCAR track is.
Yeah. Yeah,
so which gets used like once or twice a year, but it's obviously the big attraction in Darlington. Mm-hmm. And Mullins is geographically where?
It's about an hour from here, inland.
Yep.
It's in Marion County.
But these are rural schools, and I mean, you've said to me before, these are like not great educational institutions. Like,
yeah, Hartsville actually was. You know, Hartsville has Sunoco, Fortune 500 company. They had a nuclear plant, so Hartsville had a little more going for it.
Yep.
But it was tough. It was still a tough school because they draw in from such a large geographic area up there as well. A lot of poverty. That was kind of my first. That was like my first experience with like poverty that I've never seen before. Like, mm-hmm. I didn't think. Like, I was pretty naive. I mean, like I told you, I grew up in a small rural town, but I was looking up, you know, just on Wikipedia, the poverty level in the town I grew up in was 0%. Nobody, you know.
Yeah. In
these towns, you're looking at 25 to 35% of people are below the poverty line. So, yeah, you see some dirt poor, literally dirt poor, people living in houses with dirt floors. I mean, didn't think that existed here. And then you got to try to teach some of these kids that come from some of these areas. Most of them are great kids, but a lot of them are in some unfortunate living situations, and it affected them. You know.
So let's say you're the valedictorian of Mullins High School, what is in your future?
Probably Francis Marion College in Marion, Marion County. I don't know.
I guess I'm sort of driving at something. What I'm driving at is if you lose the geographical lottery and you happen to be born in one of these places, it's a bit of a it's you've been sentenced to a bad education and a lower socioeconomic status just by virtue of where you live.
Yeah, the cards can be stacked against you just from birth. But there's just a lot of things you just don't know. You just don't know. That I don't know. I can make assumptions. Yeah, they're going to struggle. They're not going to make it. They're not going to do this or that. But you just never know.
Well, sure. On a case by case basis.
Sure.
But look, these are like super big issues we're talking about. But if you're talking about inequality in the country, I think it's easier to correct inequality before it happens rather than after it happens.
Oh yeah.
So by improving education in places like this, you give people more of a chance to succeed rather than trying to redistribute income after the fact. That's harder to do.
Sure. Yeah. No, I agree, and it starts with education at a young age. These schools, like Mullins in particular, in that area, Marion County, you've heard of the corridor of shame? Yeah, it's in that what they call the corridor of shame, and it's a mostly rural southern.
Basically, it's like a band around 95 as it travels through South Carolina. They call it the corridor of shame.
Yeah. And these schools are severely underfunded. And they don't have the tax base, I guess, to support, the schools as much. Just to give you an example, my salary when I taught at Mullins was $29,000.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. That's not enough.
It's not enough.
It wasn't enough.
Yeah. All right. So let's. So we're almost done. Let's do a little speed round. We started this in the second episode when Tony Greer was here. We did the speed round. So I'm going to do a little speed round for you.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you a choice between two things, and you got to pick one. You have to pick one.
Okay.
Okay. Here we go. Chicken bog or shrimp and grits?
Chicken bog.
You like chicken bog, right?
Yeah, easy. Yeah.
So chicken bog, they're both first of all, they're both local dishes. Chicken bog is like rice with chicken and sausage. It's really good.
It's delicious.
It's really good.
Your wife makes it.
Yeah, she does it really good. Okay, next one. Steve Bannon or Dick Cheney?
Oh, that's tough. I don't know if Steve Bannon is. I don't know as much about Bannon, so I'd have to say him. Because I don't know.
I think you made a mistake.
I don't know. That's tough.
All right, next one. Chris Bryant or Kyle Schwarber?
I like Schwarber. Yeah,
But Bryant's the MVP. He's just a stud. He's an all around.
Oh, he's probably a better baseball player.
Yeah, but you just like Schwarber.
If I had to spend,
Schwarber's like the young Steve Balboni.
If I had to hang out with somebody and said, you're gonna hang out with this guy or go out to dinner with him, I'd definitely go hang out with Schwarber.
Yeah.
Than Bryant.
Next one, also sports. Mike Ditka or Jim McMahon?
McMahon. Yeah. Ditka was. He's overrated.
Alex Trebek or Pat Sajak?
Oh, Trebek. He's yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. No, you don't like Trebek?
No,
What's wrong with Trebek?
He's I don't know. He thinks he's really important. Pat Sajak doesn't take himself as seriously.
Vanna White's from North Myrtle.
Oh, that's
Beach.
right. We got to mention that.
Yeah,
yes.
Vanna White, North Myrtle. They even have it on the sign.
She's actually. I think she's from. Originally, I think she was born in Conway.
Okay.
She's actually from Conway and then moved to North Myrtle Beach.
Poor Conway. No one wants to.
Yeah. Do you like the new Mad Max or the old Mad Max?
Oh, it's tough. When the new one came out, I went and watched all the old ones again because I wanted to get caught up. The old ones are awesome. So I like the first one, the Road Warrior. I love that movie. Yeah.
I like the new one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the new one better. Yeah. Generation X or millennials?
Well, X.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, what's wrong with these kids these days?
Sam Kinison or Dice?
Sam Kinison.
God rest his soul.
Yeah, God bless him.
Yep. Yeah. Sam Kinison or George Carlin?
Well, I'd say George Carlin now. The things Sam Kinison said, I cringe at a little bit now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little uncomfortable.
Well, George Carlin's a bit of a philosopher too. I mean,
he was a little more of an intellect. Yeah.
All right, this is the best one. Back to school or old school?
Back to school.
Oh man.
That's every time that movie's on TV, I can't change the channel. That's great.
All right, one last question. Do you think the Cubs won because of Joe Madden or in spite of Joe Madden?
In spite of, especially in the series.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible, right?
Yeah, but they got there because of him. I mean,
right.
Definitely. But yeah, he's still getting questioned. He's still getting questions about that, criticized.
Yeah, he should.
And he gets defensive about it, but yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for coming. This is great.
All right.
And once again, this is David Mannen, and you work at Carolina Pines Realty.
That's right, Carolina Pines Realty.
If people want to find you online, where do they find you?
Just go to homesofmyrtlebeach.com. You can find me on there. Yeah.
Okay, great. This concludes the third episode of the Monthly Dirtcast. Thanks to our guest, David Mannen. Thanks to Blake Jarrell for letting me use his track Punta del Este. And if you want to learn more about the Daily Dirt Nap, go to www.dailydirtnap.com.